So I've had the Z Fold now for 2 weeks, and there's a lot I like about this phone. I mean, honestly, it pretty much is the pinnacle of the foldable phone, at least in the U.S. market. Quite honestly, even compared to Asian market phones, compared to thinner and slightly better battery life for this still is just a fantastic folding phone. I mean, it's the fifth version. This is generation 5. You expect it to be kind of, if not mastered, getting there at this point. I mean, by the iPhone 5, they've already made some major leaps, and then start off with the S lines and stuff like that. But the fifth foldable phone, there is no other foldable phone that is on version 5 or generation 5 right now. So you expect these people to have figured it out, and I feel like this kind of a marginal update. So let's be honest here and call it the Z Fold 4S. Very Apple-like with the minimal updates, like the one or two big updates, big enough to be like, wow, you got to get it because, obviously we have a new hinge. It folds flat. We have a new brighter screen. So, two big kind of updates here, other than a processor, which, every year, quite honestly, the Snapdragon Gen 1 was great. The Gen 2 is obviously a little bit better with battery life, helps a little bit with the cameras apparently, this or that. It doesn't make that big of a difference. At this point, I mean, we're really plateauing here with processors. I think RAM is great, though I will say I got to the point, it's kind of tough, but I got to the point where even this phone was like, hey, you're running low on RAM. I'll talk about that in a second. And, I'll mention there are, pros and cons to this gen and this phone overall compared to something like the Pixel Fold. In this video, I would say part 2 and the final portion or the final part of my review for this phone, I'm definitely going to go over a few things, but the key things I'm going to go over is how it's like to live with this phone compared to other foldable phones, camera compared to something like the Z Fold, which is probably the most appropriate thing to compare it to, because I can compare it to the Pixel 7 Pro or the Samsung Ultra, but that's not fair. So let's compare it to the Pixel Fold Pro and see their pictures side by side. I'm going to go over that later on in this video. And battery life. So I'll start here at this portion of what it's like to live with this phone. So compared to the Pixel Fold, let's be real. You do lose one big thing by not having a Pixel phone if you've had a Pixel phone in the past. And that's all of the smart Google things, Google exclusive AI intelligent stuff they add, like the hold for me when you're calling Amazon for a return, or on hold with Best Buy for an hour saying, where the hell's my shipment? You've said it was going to come here 4 weeks ago. It's been lost, and this and that. I mean, you can tell I'm very upset with Best Buy right now, but another story. You can have your phone hold for you and then ring when it hears a person come up, and that operator will hear, please wait, we're connecting you to the person, so they won't hang up. And I've literally had that working I had that running while I was working for like a 45-minute hold. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, I kind of left it in my pocket because it vibrates when it rings, so I wouldn't forget, but that's a cool feature. The dual translation thing is a cool feature. The whole I forgot what it's called when you do the whole screening my call thing, which is where if you don't know if it's a number from someone you don't recognize, or someone that got a brand new number, or if it's a telemarketer with some spoof phone that's meant to look like a phone number from your area. I just do to screen the call, and pretty much it kicks in and it will go ahead and tell that person to leave a message, and you see live transcribing. And if you realize that, like, hey, this is your family member, I have a new number, pick up, you pick up. I miss that. The voice to text, especially since I use Google Board, the Gboard a lot, is weaker on this phone. And I know that this also has the option for the faster voice typing, but it just doesn't compete with the Pixel phones that will pick up nuances, accents. If something deserves to have a comma, period, exclamation mark, it will catch that. The little other integrations with a Google password and this and that. I know you have Samsung Pass and you have other Samsung things. I mean, if you've only had Samsung phones, if you had the S21, S22, S23, or Ultras, or anything like that, and you're going to this phone, fine. You're not going to feel like you're missing anything. But if you've gone from the S21 to the Pixel 6 Pro to the S23 Ultra to the Pixel 7 Pro, well, I don't think anybody would do that, to the Pixel Fold, and then to this, yeah, you're going to realize there's a bunch of cool little neat features that are really honestly useful that are missing in anything but the Pixel. And I know with the Google One subscription, which you can get at an entry point of $2 a month, you can get that whole remove stuff, like the whole Magic Eraser and now the Magic Audio that's coming. You can get a couple photo features and stuff, but you don't get all the other smarts and all the other stuff that comes with having a phone made by Google with a Tensor chip. And I miss that while having this phone, and I always do when I switch to a Samsung, because this is about the third Samsung I've had in the last 3 or 4 years. But this is coming from someone who, quite honestly, has a lot of devices in a year. Samsung does have its own things. All of its foldable apps are fantastic. The foldable apps made for this phone, again, Gen 5 here, are better than Google Pixel's foldable apps. The weather app is just as good here. The calendar app, just as good. Outlook looks great here. Gmail looks great here. A bunch of different things look great here. Dear God, disable Bixby if you can. I even me with Samsung appliances, and I use SmartThings all over my house, I can't stand Bixby. I tried to replace it with Google Assistant. I don't know if maybe I just haven't figured it out yet, but I like to press and hold the power button to make that my Google Assistant. I don't have that here. There's obviously no Bixby button here, but you do have other shortcuts and things like that. And I will say that there are more apps that work on this phone from third-party people. Games and Instagram and Facebooks and stuff like that will immediately take up the full screen. I know Google Fold is brand new and they're getting there, but maybe in a year, I won't have to say this, but for right now, it's important. It's been about a month and a half, 2 months since the Fold has been out, and there are still apps that, are like tiny size, and there are apps there are very few apps that are full screen, where on this phone it is full screen, because quite honestly, it's the same resolution, but if you look at a Pixel Fold, the Pixel Fold's default resolution, its standard resolution, is as if you're holding a device like this. And just like how this picture demonstrates, that's pretty much the size of what an app would want to be. The Pixel Fold, which will fold like a book this way, this is kind of the aspect ratio of it, will have problems scaling the app. Now, in the Pixel Fold, you can just rotate it, and then the phone folds that way, and then you can pretty much have an almost full screen experience. But with this phone, it's in the right aspect ratio for what developers are used to and want, because they've already been at this for about 4 or 5 years with this setup. They know, hey, there is a foldable phone on the market. It's Samsung. Samsung still has, millions and millions of users. We're going to develop for that. The Fold's getting there. So first-party apps equal to what's on Google. Third-party apps, this phone destroys it. There are more apps that will just be full screen on here, or this phone will know what to do better than what Google's phone does right out the box. But when it comes to those little extra features that Pixel has, Samsung's not there yet. If you're part of the Samsung ecosystem, like I said before, you're fine. Don't worry. But if you have a Pixel smartwatch and you're a previous Pixel user, you're going to kind of feel that. So I'm going to get into the photo comparison now, and we'll look at some pictures side by side. And quite honestly, there is no clear winner, even though the Pixel Fold will have an edge in quite a few things. This phone actually does a pretty phenomenal job, and I'll go through that now, and you guys can let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, so before I get into the camera comparison portion, I just want to again show here, we have the Fold on the left, the Z Fold 5 in the middle, and the S23 Plus on the right side, which pretty much shares the same camera modules as the Z Fold 5. So I'm just going to go down to the camera portions here. So the camera modules, and just show a little bit of stats here. So you're going to see in a second that the night shot in the Fold 5 kind of fails on me quite a bit, especially if it's really dark and needs to focus on something. And that's because if you look at the Pixel Fold on the left side here, here's a Pixel Fold. You can tell there's a Tensor 2 Google thing, Google processor. You see that it doesn't just have the phase detection autofocus, which helps with focusing. It has laser autofocus. And that's where it helps. So phase detection autofocus, which all these have. You see that PDAF is phase detection autofocus. All of them have it. The dual pixel is the newer generation, so anywhere on the screen, if anything moves, it can read the edge and, you know, does this thing where it helps. But that's because it needs to see the items. Now, when it's dark and I do a nighttime shot or a night mode shot and it's very dark, laser autofocus can actually send a beam and measure the distance and use that to help with the focal length. These two not having that can have night shots kind of fail. Now, who really takes pictures in almost pitch black dark? Not a lot of people. But I do sometimes take pictures where the only light I have is like the monitor light shining on my desk, and the nighttime shots can fail on that too. So you'll see that there. Now, again, when it comes to the main module on the Pixel, the Z Fold 5, is supposedly a more powerful module. It is a slightly bigger pixels and slightly better across the board. When it comes to the telephoto, they're about the same, even though you will see that you have a lower aperture on these, so you can get more light in there, but it's only a 3x zoom. And the 3x zoom is a pretty big drop compared when you have the 5x zoom. So this is like using magnification lenses versus like a periscope. So, you know, I will just say telephoto, if the item is close enough to you on the Z Fold 5, it looks good. When it comes to the wide angle, or should I say the ultra wide lens, even though the numbers here look like the pixels should be slightly better with the bigger pixel, actually no. The Pixel Fold is a 10 megapixels, slightly bigger pixels, whatever. It's a very old module. Like, I'm talking about created 5-6 years ago old. The ultra wide angle module and the pictures coming out of the Z Fold 5 are definitely better than the Google Pixel Fold. Significantly better, I'll say. So I'll just go ahead and leave that there and then get into camera comparisons. So I've obviously took these on different days, but I will say that I literally waited for the lighting and weather, or should I say the skylight, to be almost identical. So I could be as fair as possible here. There are going to be a lot of like easy to spot wins for one of the others, but it kind of is the same when it comes down to, I mean, it's kind of even when it comes down to it, when you add up the points, if you know, so to speak. So I have the Samsung Z Fold 5 on the right side here. I have it labeled here. And I have, obviously, the Pixel Fold on the left side here. Now, I think this is easiest to show here in Photoshop. I will say that, sorry, get this text tool out of here, that these are all, they're all still full res. I can zoom into these to get the true look at it. They're not scaled or anything. I've kept it very fair, very even. Nothing's been scaled or anything differently. So this is what we have here. When I zoom in, I am not doing some unfair zoom to both. That is the actual photo. So to start with, if you look at this photo here, the Pixel Fold did a better job. It did a better job with color accuracy and also details. And that kind of surprised me because the Z Fold usually does better with details, where the Pixel Fold does usually better with color accuracy. But if I zoom in and I look at the actual rust and look at these numbers here, and then now I go to the Pixel 5, I'm sorry, the Z Fold 5, you have the details there, but I don't know. Maybe it's the coloration because this is so faded, but it just generally looks like there's less detail. You know what it is? I think there's a bit more contrast, and I'm talking about that subtle color contrast in the portions of the hydrant that I'm looking at here. The interesting thing is, given that it is the sensor is slightly better on the Z Fold 5, you get better bokeh effect back here, which is that blur, that depth of field blur. Here, everything was kind of always sharp. The Pixel Fold felt like phones from like 8 years ago when you would take them. There was like a flat, everything was sharp type of picture, where like the newer generation of phones, especially when people started seeing what Pixels and the Ultras and iPhones can do, you would get these depth of fields without portrait mode with the actual sensors that would make you think, wow, this looks like a professional, you know, photo at a much smaller scale. But the Z Fold still has that. It's a nice sensor for the main camera sensor. So now let's go next to, let me go ahead and switch here. Let's go next to this sign. So this is using portrait mode. Now, portrait mode obviously is exaggerating the blur. Hold on one second. Let me go ahead and, no, that's not the one here. You go ahead and scale this to match, kind of just for the sake of looking at what we have here. So the blur, very simple thing to keep in focus because it is a simple sign. The Z Fold 5 absolutely wins. It destroys the Pixel. Samsung has always done better with portrait mode in the Pixel, but the Z Fold 5 is finally doing what the Samsung S23 Ultra has finally done, which is to reduce, the amount of blur or make it a bit more natural. The edge detection is great. This is a simple sign, but we have this rounded corner and it catches the full lip of the sign. Look at the Pixel Fold. It blurred the edge. We're missing that white edge. You see how the white silver edge of the sign is here and then all of a sudden it's gone at the bottom? Like, how'd you mess that up? Like how hard was that, Pixel? Look at this, perfect throughout the edge. Somebody would probably think if this is zoomed out enough, it was taken on a professional camera, if you can trick them with that. There are a couple signs here, like the sign you kind of lose here, and also this metal rivet thing that goes around it, you kind of lose a little here in the Z Fold 5. So the Z Fold 5 isn't flawless, but it does a much better overall job than the Pixel Fold, which is also failing here. And just, what is this weird stuff? Yeah, so Pixel Fold definitely loses when it comes to portrait mode, unfortunately, because a lot of people love using portrait mode. I'm going to go to another photo, which doesn't match perfectly, but it pretty much gives you the vibe. This is the same tree. This is tapping in, and this is getting the natural depth of field. This is in portrait mode. So that's why you can see that the edge looks really good here. It looks really good here because it's not relying on portrait mode. This is actual true depth of field because this lake or fountain is hundreds of feet behind this palm tree. And you see this really cool texture here. The colors are really true to life here on the Pixel Fold. Now the Z Fold 5, the angle is slightly off to the side, and it also looks really good. You even get some depth of field on the side here, but the colors are bumped up. It was not that green that day, but again, they both look great. Let's see here. This is another shot with the background. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a wide angle shot. So the interesting thing here with the wide angle was, for the wide angle, I moved the Pixel a little more forward because I had a lot of people on the left side here, and I kind of felt weird getting them in the shot. The Z Fold 5, I wasn't too concerned with, dozens of people there or anything. But again, here's an example of what the day looked like. Both days looked like what the Pixel Fold is showing. It wasn't as bright as what's on the right, but you see the bump in the saturation and stuff like that. And I know that the Pixel Fold is true to life, but the Z Fold 5 picture actually looks nicer. The bump in contrast for some type of, like if you're taking a landscape picture, you kind of want a little bit of that exaggeration and that bump in colors because you're trying to show off this beautiful landscape. And it looks great. I mean, what's in focus is in focus. The wide angle catches quite a lot here. Here, everything is, it's in focus. It's not a bad shot. It's just, not as pleasant as the right side. That's objective, so I'll just leave it at that. So we're going to get to the sign now. And the sign, I try to do my best to keep this fair, but it is difficult when you start to match a 3x zoom to a 5x zoom. So this here is the ultra wide. I went the ultra wide first, and the ultra wide on the Pixel looks good until you realize that I tapped on the sign to be focused and the background focused. I specifically made sure I aimed on the numbers, but that's the ultra wide. On the Pixel Fold, it's hit or miss. The quality's okay, so I'll leave it at that. Now on the Z Fold 5, it looks a little muddied here, but generally the ultra wides are much better. At least the focus and the colors look nice. Now let's get to the 1x on both, and the 1x. The 1x here on the Z Fold 5. Unfortunately, I was a little bit further away, so this isn't the fairest comparison here. and it gets worse in the next one, but you can really see just how great the quality is. You see those little dots or little holes on the paint here of this pole, and again, that depth of field that naturally comes. This is not portrait mode. And then here on the Z Fold, on the Pixel Fold, too many folds. I'm gonna have to start calling it Z Fold 5 and Pixel. Well, the Z Fold here, Z Fold, I did it again. The Pixel Fold here on the left side also does a great job, but it is a little closer, and the colors really aren't that vibrant at all. Now, when we get to the zoomed in shot, I had to, I kept my position the same for the Z Fold 5. Now, the Pixel Fold obviously got closer because of that 5x zoom, but I was also a little bit closer to the sign. Either way, I will say that the 3x did a pretty decent job here. It does do a decent job most of the times, but you do see a little blur here. The 5x did kind of a better job here with details, but it just bumped up the contrast and sharpness, and it's kind of unpleasant. I mean, this kind of looks like something you'd see under like a microscope with those extreme high contrast monitors to show you details for stuff. This looks more like an actual picture. I mean, in real life, my eyes would see it the way the Z Fold 5 is presenting it, not this. Even if I brought my face right up to that sign, I don't think I'd see it this way. So, yeah, sorry about that. That is a miss for the Pixel Fold. Now we're gonna go ahead and go to these leaves here to show color and macro. So I tried to get the most shallowest depth of field I could on the Z Fold 5. And I will say, the Pixel Fold has the advantage here, and here's why. Why does the Z Fold 5's leaves look kind of blurry? Because there was motion. There was a little bit of wind. And there's been a little bit of wind for both days when I took this. But I can tell you for a fact, the Pixel Fold will stop motion and take a sharper picture when there is some slight motion, much better than the Samsung Z Fold 5. I mentioned that in my first video. The Samsung phone does struggle when something is slightly moving. You get kind of blurred edges. The focus is here in the middle of the leaf, or should I say the back of that front leaf. For the Fold, it's kind of the same. The leaf's just a little further down, so the depth of field is kind of the same thing here. None of these have macro photography. They don't have autofocus on their ultra-wide lenses. This tree was also taken at, this is the ultra-wide. I'm just going to go ahead and go through this quickly. This is the 1X. I was standing a little closer for the Pixel Fold. I will say they both did a great job with catching detail on this. The color on the Z Fold is actually a little better, and the Z Fold is probably a little more contrastier, so you lose a little detail on those shadows and highlights. But again, I'm not going to nitpick here. They're both great shots. And here we go with some detail. So here's where the color is a little lost on the Pixel Fold. Like you lose some color and there's some blurred going on there. The Z Fold 5 did a much better job with the color and the contrast there. It just looks like a better picture. So now let's jump into, this is indoors with a single room light above, no studio light or multiple lights or anything like that. And the one thing I wanted to point out here, as I pointed out with the Pixel Fold when I put it against the Pixel 7 Pro, was that the depth of field difference between Link's face here in this figure and the arrow, he's holding a bow and arrow right up to the camera, wasn't that dramatic. And it wasn't catching the focus as much with the 5x telephoto zoom. These are both zoomed in. So the Z Fold 5, his face is sharp. That muddled little chips and everything that's on the figure, and the depth of field on the arrow is actually much more dramatic. That is the sensor doing its job. The main sensor and the telephoto sensor both provide beautiful depth of field on the Samsung Z Fold 5. So that's a great job there. This is where the figure is its entirety. This is 1X. I should have shown this one first so you can see the figure I was talking about. Again, the depth of field there, I I clicked on his face for focus, and this just came out perfect. I mean, the 1X on the Z Fold 5 does a good job as long as nothing is moving. You know, it's a little more muddied here, as in color. I mean, the color is almost identical. Look at the Game Boy camera, which is this screen module back here. The Pikachu, the colors are a bit more punchier on the Samsung Z Fold 5. You can see even the blue, the tunic, and stuff like that. Here, this is a pretty good example of color reproduction here. There's just slightly more color on the right side, and you know what? In this scenario, it's fine. Sometimes it isn't fine, but for here, it's fine. Now, here's where the Z Fold 5 kind of failed me. These are both night shots, or should I say nighttime mode, whatever it is that it's called. This room was pretty much pitch black, except for a little light I had from a monitor, which you see in the reflection in the background. And the phones both had kind of a hard time on showing what the actual figure was in front of me, because the screen was pretty much black because the room was dark. And the Pixel Fold did a great job with the focus. I guess that laser autofocus detection picked up that the figure was, you know, just a foot in front of me, where the Z Fold 5, and just to be fair, I didn't do this once or twice. I did this like 7 times with the Z Fold 5, tapping on the arrow, tapping on Link's face. I tried tapping on the lines of my board here in order to get it to look at these items for focus, and it just kept failing. It just went to a default kind of medium autofocus length, which was this background, and it just would not detect the figure in front. So this is what I meant about when it's really, really dark, the nighttime mode will fail you on that Samsung Z Fold 5 much more than it will on the Pixel Fold. So that's a big win for the Pixel Fold there. And then here's a telephoto shot using that nighttime mode too. Again, the only light here is a little side light I had. And again, this is a little closer to the 5X. This is a 3X. Now, the Z Fold 5, again, was a little blurred. It actually focused on the top. But check this out. This is a pretty flat wall. But it started adding this texture here. I mean, look at this, like, that digital noise that looks almost like as if it's a ribbed texture. That does not exist in that smooth piece of sheetrock. And you can tell because the exact same noise is in the wood. So the Z Fold 5 added some significant digital artifacting noise there. But it overall was a better nighttime photo with color and everything. The Pixel Fold did a better job with details and stuff, but look how muddied and blurred that looks. I mean, that also did a pretty weird job. I just thought it was strange how this looked pretty great till I saw this weird pattern appear. And that's pretty much where I'm going to stop this here. I mean, there's so much more I can show you. I've taken hundreds of photos and videos already with the Z Fold 5. And I'm just going to say one positive thing about the Z Fold 5 that will just, you know, if you feel a little down with some of these, the video. The video is definitely better than the Pixel Fold videos. The Pixel Fold videos does a great job. The microphone picks up some great audio, but it just doesn't compete with all of the video options you have in the Z Fold 5. And again, the Z Fold 5 has that Pro mode. I've had people tell me in messages after seeing my last video that, hey, you can just install a third-party camera app to get a Pro mode on the Pixel Fold or any Pixel phone, because you mentioned that the Pixel phones don't have that. I'm like, yeah, you can, but it's never really the same or as quick when you use a third-party camera app, at least in my experience. If you guys have a third-party camera app that has a Pro mode that works awesome on a Pixel phone, please feel free to message me or add it to the comments. I'll give it a shot. Maybe I'll review it and I'll do some comparisons. But I was just going for first party here. That's the only and fairest way to really judge these two phones. Battery life. Oh man, battery life. It's weird. If you have apps that are battery hungry, man, does this phone suffer. So I have this app. It's something I haven't used in forever, but it's out there, and it's kind of a battery killer, despite the fact that you probably wouldn't think, especially if you give it all the permissions. It's Pikmin Bloom. I'm not even like a big player of that game. I just got it. Someone made me download it again the other day, and I just had it on here because I kind of remember, hey, this thing kind of always runs, and it does drain batteries quite a bit, more than something like Pokemon Go. Now, if you're benchmarking and you're playing something like Genshin Impact, sure, while that app is running, that's going to drain more battery. But Pikmin Bloom is one of those that asks for permission to run in the background at all times. and man, does it drain batteries. I remember on my Pixel Fold, I was getting between 4 to even sometimes 7 hours of screen on time. I had what I would consider pretty good battery life. On this phone, same thing. I felt like it was better, especially if I didn't have that Pikmin Blue map, which I didn't have on the Fold. So that's a disadvantage here. So the battery here has to be a little bit better. I definitely feel like it's at least, let's throw a number out there, 10 or 15% better than the Pixel Fold, maybe closer to 10%. But when you have an app that runs persistently in the background and you're thinking, oh, I don't play that game, a lot of apps do that. You know, Fitbits or this or that. There are a lot of apps that may want to know your GPS at all time in order to do its thing. Or if you played something like Pokemon Go or whatever. This phone also can get as little as 4.5 hours of screen on time, which is pretty terrible. And then there's other times before I installed that app last week where this phone was giving me on average 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. I've seen it stretch further in a day where I used it very lightly, but it is kind of hit or miss. And it's been 2 weeks, and that's still what I'm experiencing now. So I'll definitely say the battery life on this is just about what you get on the Pixel Fold, if not maybe a little bit better. And is it a little bit better than the Z Fold 4, last year's Samsung Fold? I can tell you that I definitely, from what I remember, yes. Because I remember that phone having pretty terrible battery life. And I thought the Pixel Fold had better battery life than the Z Fold 4. Well, I think this Z Fold 5 has better battery life than both the Pixel Fold or the Z Fold 4 that came the year before. So they're getting there. I know the processor has a lot to do with it since the battery life is exactly, the battery size is the same. So they're getting there. And I think that it's definitely enough to get you through the day. You know, there are dozens of ways to save batteries here. Like, do not let a stupid app like Pikmin Bloom run all goddamn day with your GPS and, you know, use your battery saver mode when you can. But charging. This phone charges significantly faster than the Pixel Fold. I never had charging issues with my Pixel Fold like some users had. Some users are like, oh, I've had my Pixel phone plugged in for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and it's not done yet. What the hell? I've never experienced that. I know that's a bug that's out there. I know the Fold does charge a little slowly, but with the official Pixel Fold 30-watt charger, I would charge the Pixel Fold in about an hour and a half, maybe an hour 40 minutes. This phone does that same amount of charge in about an hour. So it's about 50% faster. I can charge this phone practically 0 to 100 in about an hour, which to me is pretty great. I mean, you have to have the charger to do it, but it works great. I'm just going to do a little update on durability. I have dropped this phone quite a few times. I have this Rinky case. I'll link it again. I'm absolutely in love with it. It has that matte frost feel to it. By the way, I'm not sponsored by these people or anyone. I have zero sponsorship at all. I think someone mentioned that when they saw how hard I sold this last time, because I absolutely just personally love this. If I ever have a sponsor or ever push a product that I am making a single penny off of, I absolutely will let you guys know, because I think that's pretty ridiculous if somebody would do that. You know, sure, if there's a sponsored product, I will push the hell out of it during its sponsored time, but I'm being honest here. This is just my personal case brand that I like. I've used them for years. I'm talking about like 8 or 9 years, however long they've been around. So yeah, it's been great. I've had a bunch of drops at like pocket height, and I mean, short of maybe some little blemishes or dents that it doesn't even show up on the case, nothing. I've had nothing. I thought I actually damaged the screen. I don't know if that comes up. Yeah, it comes up on here. Let's see, kind of have like this white mark here. It looks like a plastic. I don't know. I kind of feel something there. I don't know. I think I feel like I'm wiping it away now with my nail, with the side of whatever bit of nails I have. So yeah, maybe not. But yeah, I've been rough with this thing, man. You know, it's been in water, it's been in everything, and it's been fine. You know. Again, the Pixel Fold also felt like a tank too, but foldables are not the fragile little butterflies they were back in Gen 1, except for the inner screen bezels. I'm sure that if you get a nail or something under that, it will eventually break a line or two of pixels. But right here on the outside, this folded, this can probably take quite a few of drops. So yeah, if you're watching a portion, I was slamming this on the board and also in the video cut. It wasn't a bad editing. My camera battery died. I swear, it wasn't that I just dropped this and it cracked and I was like, oh my god, I had to run to it. So you know, I'm kind of getting to the end of it here, and I wanted to make sure I had a nice full weekend with this yet again to make sure that my my opinions of this haven't suddenly changed. There has been an update. I had the one, I forgot what they call their UI, the One UI version 1.1 come out. So I've had a firmware update already for this. I keep checking the Galaxy Store for Galaxy app updates, and I check the Play Store for updates to see if there's been an update for the camera, to see if they would help, because you know this phone seems to really take brighter pictures by slowing the shutter speed, which makes most of the pictures with motion blurry, but no updates yet. I'm sure that with firmware updates, they can kind of fix some problems with the camera. But, you know, if the camera isn't the main feature here, if a foldable device is the main feature here, everyone's pretty much summed up the comparison of the Pixel Fold and the Z Fold 5 of saying, hey, do you want a phone with an outside screen you can always use and occasionally use the inside foldable screen for when it's convenient or when you really need it, or kind of when you want to say, hey, I wish I had a tablet right now? Or for the Z Fold 5, do you want to have a tablet with you all the time and then close it and then sometimes use the outside screen as a very narrow, tiny phone? Because it is narrow, I'm not gonna lie. The front screen is not as usable as the Pixel Fold. This makes me open it more, which is great. You would think, well, you have a foldable phone. Of course you want to open it more. Why wouldn't you just always have it open? I'm like, well, because when you're driving, you take it in your pocket. It's kind of hard. You can't hold it like this. You have to hold it with your hands off. It's kind of hard to have a phone open all the time. You know, you don't have two hands available. You're taking it out of your pocket. You need to be able to just take your phone out of your pocket and do stuff on it. So the outside screen is still very important on a foldable phone. So let's be very clear with that. If you're looking to get a foldable phone, don't think, oh, I'm only going to use the inner folded, the inner screen with the device unfolded. That's pretty much what I plan on doing. Yeah, right. Let's be real here, man. I mean, that's not going to happen. So the aspect ratio for me, I mean, I think the perfect happy medium would be if something was between the Pixel Fold and the Z Fold 5 in an aspect ratio, which would probably mean like a square, but hey, maybe that's what I want. I do like this phone a little bit more than the Pixel Fold. You know, the foldable apps on it are better. They're more third-party apps that work on it. The screen size, the screen is brighter. That's a big deal for me. I didn't realize how important that was until here I am in summer sun wearing sunglasses all day. The Pixel Fold actually felt dim outside, and a lot of people are like, what? That's more than enough brightness. You're crazy. Well, I don't think you live where I live, so it is a big deal. So, you know, I think this phone is definitely a step up or more advanced than the Pixel Fold, but this is Gen 5, and the Pixel Fold just came out with its first foldable ever. So that's kind of a unfair comparison, but it is a fair comparison because they both want the same amount of money and they both came out pretty much around the same time. If you're both going to charge us $1,800 and come out in the summer of 2023, you got to compete or beat each other in something. And the Pixel Fold for me only beats the Samsung Z Fold in some camera scenarios and having its cool little Google exclusive extra features that they have and the aspect ratio. This beats the Pixel Fold in everything else I didn't mention. You know, well, they're tied in some things like speaker or mics or this or that tied. But processor, heat distribution, I don't have the heating issues as much here, though I do have heating issues here. Battery, maybe a little. RAM's great. Screen is definitely better. You know, there's just so many things. I can go down the list. I'll just end it with, if you want a foldable phone, you want the best foldable phone right now, and you don't need the best camera on the market, get a Z Fold 5, especially with all of the discounts. The double storage, that's still out there. There's a bunch of discounts still out there, I believe. And on top of that, the Google Pixel, I mean, Google didn't do a great job not promoting that phone because they promoted the hell out of it during the NBA Finals and whatnot. Just making it a must-have phone to get. They didn't give all of those special promotions or freebies or heavy discounts like Samsung always does. And it's not like, oh, Samsung's giving these discounts because they're competing with the Pixel Fold. No, they did it with the Z Fold 4 and 3 as well. The Z Fold 4 actually, I think, had even better discounts. They let you trade in two phones and stuff like that. And they were competing with no one back then. Not a single person in the US market, at least. So, it's just that Google is not a company that's solely focused on selling hardware like Samsung is. They're software first and foremost. I know they will always be that. And that's the reason why they have all those cool little extra software stuff. So I'm just going to end this video with saying I really appreciate if you've seen the entirety of my first video and the second video. I mean, I know what it's like to go down the rabbit hole of watching videos when you're excited for something, and you will literally type in whatever it is and review or walkthrough or tips, and just, let those videos run while you're working, or let them run while you're in the shower or whatever. I don't know, maybe you're the type of person who brings the phone into the shower. That's for another day. But it's I know what it's like. I'm a definitely a consumer first and foremost, and I know what it's like. So if there's something you're missing here, something you didn't get, feel free to message me. Feel free to throw it in the comments, and I'll see if I can get to it. If I didn't answer something, I probably just got so excited and skipped right over it. But I definitely could come back to it if needed. Am I gonna keep this phone? Is this phone gonna be in my pocket? Probably until the Pixel 8 comes out. We'll see. But until then, I hope whoever has seen this video or my first video and purchased this phone since, I hope I was able to help you and answer those questions as you're going through your new phone. For anyone on the edge still between the two, I kind of hope I pointed out the specific things that you're looking for, and you can choose your phone off of that. If you decide to get none of these phones, hey, that's fine. I mean, next year we're going to have an even better Pixel Fold. And the Z Fold 6 has to have a better, I shouldn't say a better, but a bigger jump in improvement wise, given how small I don't want to say small, but how limited the improvements were with this one. Again, I'm going to call this the Z Fold 4S for now. If you don't like it, then Samsung, do something about it. So, until the next one, I appreciate it, guys. All the affiliate links down below help me if you buy anything from that. Again, it doesn't add anything to your charge, but it does help me out, so I appreciate that. And until the next one, have a good one, guys.